More recently, we have introduced, just like today we do this in search, we rank content based on quality. And so we're bringing that same notion and approach to YouTube so that we can rank higher quality stuff better and really prevent borderline content which doesn't exactly violate policies which need to be removed. The thing we are trying to do is to bring more authoritative sources and fact checks on videos which may be controversial. It's a case where we got it wrong, but that's what we are trying to do, and we are working hard to improve.
From anti-Semitism to harassment of LGBTQ individuals, conspiracy theory videos about the Parkland shooting or Sandy Hook. I mean, fundamentally, Sundar, where do you draw the line with YouTube between hate and free speech?
It's a line we work hard to get right, and every few years we feel the need to evolve them because we see changes in how the platform is getting used. Just last week we had significant revisions to our hate speech policy. At YouTube we are very focused on removing harmful content and reducing the spread of what we think of as borderline content. Just last quarter we removed over 9 million videos, and so it's an ongoing process, but there's more we need to do, and we acknowledge that.
He got called in front of Congress multiple times, and we've not shown up because we just know they're going to just attack us. Like, we're not going to change our response, we're not going to change our mind. There's no point in just sitting there being attacked for something that we know we're not going to change. Like, they can pressure us, but we're not changing. But we also have to be aware of what they're doing and what they're accusing us of.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, I sit down with the man behind the Stop Bitburning movement, Dustin Nemos, and we're going to discuss how this movement is growing and evolving to start to include some of the top conservative YouTubers and social media influencers around the country. Plus, we're going to talk about how we're going to change the landscape and what is happening with Google and YouTube and the way they are suppressing content. So you guys are going to want to stick around to check this out and enjoy. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. And today we have a very special guest, my good friend, Dustin Nemos. Dustin, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Craig. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, just to basically sum it up for people, it's digital book burning. We're being erased from the internet for supporting the President Trump or for having a dissident view to fake news and big tech.
Yeah, thank you for explaining it, because that was what I wanted to start with, explaining to the audience what Stop Bitburning is and what it means. The reason I'm having you on here is because we've been having some great dialogues with a lot of different creators across the spectrum. And the one common thing that we all share is this experience with big tech where we are under attack, for a lack of a better term. We are constantly under attack for trying to get our message out there. And it's one of those things that makes you really stop and think. And once you start looking at the facts, that's when it gets even more disturbing. And that's what Stop Bitburning has been able to do. It's been able to bring together legal experts with content creators, with social media, other social media influencers, with just other people in general that are out there who are experiencing this kind of technocratic, fascistic censorship on a regular basis, and they really have no, recourse except to kind of come together and start fleshing out these ideas of, how do we fight this? How do we address what the problem is? And then how do we move forward? So I want to start by asking you what you can tell us about Stop Bitburning, what you can tell us about the movement, who's involved so far, and kind of let's start there, because this is going to kind of lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about here.
Sure. Thank you, Craig. So obviously, if Bitburning itself is digital censorship, Stop Bitburning is a campaign to bring together a coalition of people who, for the most part, themselves have suffered censorship, or even if they just care about free speech, come together because we're stronger together. And individually, we are sort of being slow boiled like a frog. And we're sort of losing reach. We're losing certainly income, being demonetized. We're being drained out, fleshed out, driven out. and just erased from the internet. So by coming together, we can actually possibly even back a legal action, back a campaign, raise awareness, and that's kind of the goal so far. I don't want to say who's involved just yet because they haven't told me I can, but a number of people are very interested. The first meeting we had roughly a month ago, I don't remember the exact date now, but they had about a dozen or about 13, 14 people showed up. This time it was around 30 or more. So it was just a short time and we've already tripled. The momentum is clearly there. I mean, everyone's mad about it. We have President Trump tweeting about censorship. We have Congress people asking them questions about it. And then we have Zuckerberg and others lying about it. So, it's clearly an issue whose time has come. And I feel like there's some definite power and unity here. I know you've been censored. I've been censored. You were recently demonetized. Welcome to the club. I say that on behalf of all of us because a while back they got most of us with the Vox apocalypse. So it is a big club now, and that's kind of the goal with bit burning is just to bring us all together, see what we can do. If there's millions of us backing it, then we can even possibly do a class action antitrust lawsuit.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because everything you highlighted there is really important about what we're going up against. And I know that the meeting, the group itself grew exponentially. I mean, like you said, we started off with like the first call, like you said, 12, 15 people. And now we have 30 plus or something like that. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, even though we're not naming names here, the people involved on the back end are some of the biggest YouTubers out there, social media people out there from all the different social media platforms. And I can tell you that because I've been in these calls and I know who's there. So that in and of itself is really important to remember. And then, like you said about figuring out this whole class action idea, or even just what we've gotten from these phone calls, which I think is really important, is understanding legally what kind of recourse there is for us just in general, whether it is in class action or whether it's just in the form of understanding, how they are manipulating the system, how the big tech companies are breaking the law when they do these practices which undermine and undercut our ability to grow, undercut our ability to earn a living, and then also, go to help the fake news, media complex as a whole. And then how it's all this kind of cycle that we're in right now. And I really think that we're in the middle of something that's going to be really important in the midst of a collection of individuals who are going to come together, to really solve this problem by examining it and then taking it on head first. What are your thoughts on where this goes from here?
Well, Craig, you've always been a champion of free speech, and I like that about you. I'm hoping that by bringing all these guys together and sort of at least raising awareness and bringing this to the national level of being censored right before, obviously this is just another form of totalitarianism from the left, and it's a form of trying to impeach President Trump and interfere in the 2020 election because they're trying to stop the competition for the dying fake news. And we're winning, leaps and bounds. We're growing while they're shrinking. They're having mass layoffs. But the problem is the way the law is set up, it's really rigged in their favor. It really protects them on a lot of levels. But there is kind of and that would be that, from the free speech angle, it's hard to attack, but from the business angle, it's a lot more open. And what they're doing is clearly also a business attack on our, as you said, it's an attack on our businesses. It's an attack on our livelihoods. So from a business angle, they're trying to drown us out. And that's also illegal. So this is a big attack angle for us through a class action antitrust, which, I commissioned with Todd McMurtry, who's one of the super lawyers behind defending some of the some of the Covington students and Nicholas Sandmann against the big news media, the fake news giants that came against him and smeared the kids. And it was a big debacle. And he was one of the champion lawyers that stood up to sort of stand against Goliath in that situation. So he's the first guy I went to talk to about this idea. And I commissioned through him some research, and it was very expensive, but he and his team were able to pull together kind of a couple different approaches, the best of which he identified as a class action antitrust. So with that in mind, I set forth to just go out and communicate with as many of us as I could who had been through it. Clearly, they're angry about it. They just don't know what to do yet. And I've had a very good reception from people. They're very interested in hearing more. They don't really know, what to do yet. And there's always a possibility that we'll have some sort of fundraising in the future to actually go for the legal campaign. We're not there yet. We're just raising awareness. But like you said, it's growing exponentially.
And the great thing is too that what you've done with Todd and bringing him in, it helps. But then you also have all of these other very large influencers, and some of them have been fighting their own legal battles for quite some time. And without getting specific on names, I will say that when you look at the Communications Decency Act and the conversation that we always have about publisher versus a platform, and then the way that this is always looked at, like you said, in a free speech sense, I think the key point that we're starting to realize as we come together and have more of these conversations is that it is the business side, and that the business side may be where they're the most vulnerable. It's where they think they're the least vulnerable. It really is where they're the most vulnerable, because like we've talked about, I'm not going to get into the details of the CDA and different sections, because that's getting a little too deep into the legalese of it. But there's an argument to be made that we're all kind of coming together and seeing that when YouTube, for example, takes a video such as yours truly's and takes away all of my suggested videos, that's fine, right? But then if I'm doing an editorial on the news, right, and you're replacing all of my content out of your suggested video with somebody who basically you could say is a competitor of mine, such as Fox News, and you're showing that favor to them, then, and at the same time denying me the access to things like monetization and like you said, suggested videos, there's an argument to be made that they're engaging in what would be called tortious interference against my individual right to have a contract with a third party, being that advertiser and the audience, right?
Yeah.
So
Courts are another option as well.
Yeah, and diving deeper into all of these different avenues, I think, is the most important part of understanding, where this can go. As far as, we're fighting for free speech, but we're also fighting for the right to compete in a fair market, to not have the system gamed against us and the deck's rigged by the time we get to the table. And that's what we see now. For instance, today, if somebody tried to start a channel doing kind of similar content to what I'm doing, I don't think they would stand a chance in what. And that is what we have to fix, I think, is that they're slowly, like you said, we're the frog in boiling water. They're turning up the heat, and they're slowly trying to basically get rid of us so they can replace us with the corporate approved, next or fake news or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I think the big problem is. But what do you think?
Yeah, they're clearly setting the rules against us. They're creating an unfair and rigged marketplace, and it has to stop. I think the energy's there. People are ready for it. We just needed a way. None of us could have stood against Google and YouTube or any of these big giants alone, but they can't stop all of us. They certainly can't stop all of us together. And that's kind of the goal now. I think people see a way forward. They see a path now. They see something that we can actually do that could make a difference, and possibly even set a precedent or change the game. And certainly we could bring attention to this issue, and bit burning is a new word for us to do just that. It's a new word to define and brand.
Explain bit burning in the sense of, obviously it's modern book burning. Is that what you're getting at there?
It is, yeah. Bits are just, digital information like a byte, and bit burning is what's happening when they, instead of burning a book, for example, they burn our digital videos off the internet where we're trying to spread the news. So it's just book burning in a new era. And it's clearly the same thing. It's what happens when totalitarians don't like what you're believing or thinking or saying or writing, and they want to get rid of what you think because you have wrong think, whether it may, whether it be your pro-life views or, your backwater hick, religion as they would see it, just spreading the word of God or anything like that. They just want to burn you off the internet because they don't want to have to compete with your message. So if you're not good enough, then that's their view. So it basically sets the tone for what big tech wants it to be. And there are no other opinions allowed.
Yeah, I mean, it's competing for, like you said, they don't want to compete against us in the open market. And because they know in the open market, we win, right? When everything's set to even, we win.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest, problem I see with it is that, it's the same things that we cover here on the channel that I talk about over on Just Informed Talk all the time, is that you have people who are in positions of power who use their power in order to silence others, to silence dissent, to silence conversation, debate, you name it, just simply asking questions. And we have to continue to be loud about this. We have to organize. We have to come together and really show them that they can't do this to us. They can't just shut us down, throw us in the memory hole, never to be heard again. And I think that's why I really am drawn to the movement that you founded, and we've been talking about this thing for a long time. And the more people get involved, the more it seems that, if anything, regardless of what happens legally or not, if we get enough people involved in this idea of changing the system and the way it is, that's how we change society. That's how we get rid of these unaccountable, unelected fascists in Silicon Valley who are telling me and you what to say and what we can do. And then if we don't toe the line, they take away your social media accounts. They take away your bank account. And then they take away your right to call an Uber. I mean, what point does it stop till you're just sitting in a field in the middle of nowhere, with a fire like a caveman, stoking it, going, oh, I don't know what happened. I was so good. I thought I was doing all right.
Yeah, I hear you. And I can visualize exactly what you're saying here, because that's exactly what they would like to see us happen. They want us criminalized for thinking, but they can't. So they have to do everything that they can to punish us. And you know what? I don't want to say any names, but at that meeting and the last one, if we total that up, it's around 5 million people that we could reach. So we're already there. We're already too big to stop. It's just a matter now of sort of getting the awareness up and getting people to know kind of what bit burning really is about, and campaigning on that and letting people know. And then we're going to win. I mean, first they try to silence you, and then they attack you, and then you win.
I mean, and at the end of the day, every time they take a little piece away, it is death by 1,000 cuts. And the sooner that people get that, the sooner that people understand that what they're doing is organized and it's methodical and it's been well planned in advance. I mean, the Google dump itself, we both know Zach Voorhees, right? The Google dump itself that he came out with literally has psychological research papers that go in depth in understanding how, if you just keep taking away and you keep suppressing content and you keep doing it, that people will eventually fall in line. There's like a whole outline on how to psychologically break down people in order to exploit them. And that's what these people are doing behind closed doors. They're not sitting there, singing Kumbaya, holding hands, saying, it's going to be a great world when we're done, even though some of them probably are. But so tell people what you think this, or where they should go, how they get involved, because who knows, maybe, just maybe out there, one of these people who's listening to this channel is a big social media guy, or has been on Fox News. Maybe he's an author. Maybe they're on TV. Maybe they're just somebody who's gotten big on social media, whatever. Maybe they want to join this movement. Maybe they want to get in on these conference calls. Where do they go? Who do they talk to? How do they get involved?
That's a good question. So if you go to stopbitburning.com, you'll find a sign-up form for 3 different options. You can be a person who just is interested in the movement and wants to get updates, and you can get on the mailing list, and you'll get updates, and there's updates available on the website. In fact, I'd like to put this video on there at some point, and all the interviews that I do around this as well, and interviews that the attorney does. And, you know, when we have just censorship related updates that are kind of big media things. But at the end of the day, there's also two other options. There's one for influencers, who are folks like us, social media guys, independent journalists, whatever it may be, that are interested in maybe contributing or even just being part of the conversation. As you said, they can join as influencers, and that's a short form they fill out, and then they get plugged into our emails, and we'll contact them and reach out. And then there's a third option as a sponsor, just someone who wants to maybe contribute to the expenses that are, you know, already in the 5 figures as far as legal research that got us to this point. And then soon, hopefully, if things go well, and I think they're going very well, we will have a public entity or sort of a public advocacy entity. And I'm assuming that's some sort of a nonprofit. I'm going to let the lawyers handle that. I don't really know how those work. But they're going to set that up so that we can have something to fundraise around and actually build the war chest. And that's sort of a, you know, they should be worried about that, because like I said, we already can reach 5 million people. That's going to grow very quickly.
I like that. I like this. So you guys heard it there, stopbitburning.com, right? And I really think that we'll see this continue to grow, and Bitburning is going to be a part of that. And I can't wait to see where this goes from here. And like I said, any of you guys out there listening, well, then go to stopbitburning.com. Go check it out. Give my friend Dustin a holler and the movement. There are so many great people there. We're going to keep in touch. We're going to keep checking back up on this story. As you know, Dustin's always a regular welcome on this show. Thank you, Dustin, for coming on. Anything you want to say to wrap it up? Now's your chance.
Thank you for having me on very much, Craig. It's always a pleasure. It was great hanging out with you in Miami as well. You should definitely tell some of the stories we had there with Phil Mickelson and all that. And yeah, hashtag stopbitburning.com.
Hashtag stopbitburning.com. We're not going to talk about Phil Mickelson until we're going to leave that one as a cliffhanger. If you guys want to hear about Phil Mickelson, please tune in for the next episode where we have Dustin on. I'm sure that will be coming up in the near future. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. First of all, Dustin, thank you so much for everything. And I appreciate the interview, and I appreciate your time. And thank you guys out there for watching this episode. Don't forget, check the links in the description if you want to get more information on this episode, Stop Bitburning, all that stuff. I'll throw some stuff down there to keep you guys informed as always. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.